And again, thank you very much, Mr. Hiliare, for your contributions in regards to, the MSME environment, and as well, I really appreciated the point in regards to addressing the challenges from the root, as we recognize it's so important to ensure that, whatever policies that are being implemented are data-driven, right? And so the root requires evidence. But at this time, we've heard from Honourable Pinard in regards to the different initiatives that are being launched and implemented within the ministry to provide support to micro, small, medium, large enterprises. We've heard about, much of the major infrastructural development programs. You heard from Mr. Edwards in regards to digitization and, his own private perspective from his business, and as well, Mr. Hiliare in regards to the MSME environment and the different initiatives, and as well the different approaches that potentially can be taken. And so at this time, I would like to open the floor to the public, to the public sector. Oh, Jose's hand is. So Jose's hand was like right there. And Jose is the consultant to the DDA, currently working on creating a tourism product for Dominica. So Jose, we'll yield to you for your any questions or comments.
I have a comment. I have a comment and a request, not as the tourism person in the room, but as a Bajan. Yes? I first started to come to Dominica last January, so January 2024. And it is not lost on me the amount of mangoes that you guys have on this island. It is absolutely not lost on me. It is not lost on me the amount of guavas that just drop on the road and spoil. It is not lost on me the ground provisions that you have to make the flowers that people want, whether it's cassava, all of those things. And I cry when I see people cutting down breadfruit trees because at home, people are buying breadfruits for $5 each in order to be able to resell it in their business. And I'm like, this does not make any sense. So you're an island stuck in the middle of gross tourism around you. So if you look at the islands that surround you, whether it's Antigua, Jamaica, Barbados, all the lot, all of us are tourism heavy and tourism dependent islands. We do not have 1/3 of the produce that you have. Everything that we have has to be imported in such a way from so far away, and it is not as reliable the way that we get things and the quality of the product that we get. And you are sitting on a gold mine, on an absolute and utter gold mine, where no matter what time of the year I drive around this island, there are mangoes. I'm like, you have mangoes 12 months of the year, different parts of the island, but they're there. But I have to go home and drink Island Oasis if I want a mango smoothie in a box that came from some other part. So please tell me when the manufacturing plants are going to open up to turn all of this fruit that just lies on the ground and rots and does whatever else and fills up the drains into something that is an exportable product that you don't even need to go far, ship it to us. Just send it down the road because we need it. Breadfruits, like we eat every breadfruit off of every tree in Barbados. There's not enough breadfruit for the demand of breadfruit that we have at home. And you just have them everywhere. And I just drive around this island, all I see is dollar signs. All I see is dollar signs. And then I hear people tell me that there's no opportunity, and there's no opportunity, there's no avenues for stuff to be done. And I wonder how we bridge that gap to make sure that all of your natural resources are being optimized, because we have young people with nothing to do. Because if you don't show them the way that the money can be made, then they're not going to be interested in it. You are touted as the nature island. The nature island is more than just Trafalgar Falls. Everybody people are eating healthier. There's gluten-free this, gluten-free that, and you have all of the things to make the flowers that the people want to make everything that is gluten-free and healthy. I should be able to not just go in the supermarket and buy a small 8-ounce package of plantain flour, but I need that in a big bag that you ship it and send it somewhere else. So this is just me as a fellow islander that does not have the bounty of Dominica asking you to feed us. Seriously, that's all.
Thank you very much for that comment. One of the things actually I did not include in the presentation was one of the aspirations in regards to the agricultural contribution of agriculture to GDP, which was announced as 700 million by 2030. And so I think much of what you have mentioned perhaps is reflected in these aspirations. And I do hope, obviously, I mean, many persons across the room share the same sentiments as you. And so it's just a matter of, reiterating that to necessary ministerial stakeholders to ensure that that is reflected. But I'll also yield to the panelists as well to chime in on this particular discussion.
Thank you. Thank you for that very insightful contribution. We see the potential and the opportunity that you obviously have seen. As our panelists just indicated, we have the target of increasing agricultural contribution to GDP by $700 million by 2030. And this is not just something we say when we have in Parliament or in various speeches. We're actually working towards that. For example, up to recently, I think yesterday or so, the Ministry of Agriculture made available 2,000 plants of avocados, going at only $10, 10 EC dollars per plant. And that is available up in the north of the island. Recently, we had another few thousand coconut trees imported from Brazil. And these, well, from my personal constituency, I was able to give out hundreds of those for free to farmers. These are dwarf coconuts, and they have a very high yield. Coconuts selling for $5 per in Dominica. We have citrus coming in as well. I think we have a shipment on the way right now. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that the government is actively looking to supply the trees, the fruit trees, to the farmers at either very minimal or no cost to the farmers. We import, we ship, we bring in fertilizer that we give out to the farmers for free. We give farmers tools that they can use on the farms for free. We have extension officers that visit all those farms, and they provide the services for free. So in general, the government, I believe, is doing as much as it can. The government pays $5 million at the DAIC year, so that when it can buy from farmers and be able to pay them within a relatively short time of 1 to 2 days maximum, so that the farmers do not have to wait for an extended period to get paid, so they don't have to wait for DAIC year to sell their produce, to get money, and then pay the farmers. So the DAIC can pay from that $5 million fund, and the monies would be recovered after the items are sold. But then, for the entire thing to work as well as it should, we, the citizens of Dominica, also have to make a determination to support our local businesses, to buy local. We cannot be doing so much to encourage farming and produce in Dominica, and yet the majority of us choosing to buy from supermarkets that import in those very same produce into the country. Granted, the farmers and the vendors and so on have to make a concerted effort not to overcharge on the items, because if somebody have to be importing goods and can sell it cheaper than somebody who is producing it here and getting so many concessions, so many things being given to them for free, then that is where the balance, it goes off balance. According to the locals, I got the math on it. So we have to price our things properly, but we also as consumers have to support our local businesses. And that goes beyond agriculture. In Dominica, we have developed a culture where we buy everything online. We buy from Amazon, we buy from eBay, we buy from everywhere, and we pass our local shop straight. And we cannot continue to build a thriving business environment if people living on the island not buying from our small businesses. We have an obligation, we have a duty to support our local businesses. We make our money here, we should, as much as possible, spend our money here. The country does not benefit when we buy everything we need to use on Amazon. The US government and the other jurisdictions, they get the tax, the businesses develop and they thrive in those other places, and our businesses here suffer, they close down, and the government get blamed for that. But nobody thinking of, okay, for the past 2 years, I haven't bought a single pants in Dominica, single shirt in Dominica. So we also have to take personal and collective responsibility for the way we go about our daily lives in terms of helping support our local businesses, support our agriculture and so on. So we have that, that personal responsibility. But thank you.
Are there any other contributions?
Could I make a
Yes, for sure.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Honourable Pinard. So as a businessman who's moved back to Dominica and I'm in Dominica, I'm fully of this mindset already. So the first thing I'd like to say is thank you for that external perspective, and I love your frustration because I share it. Just very briefly, I don't want to take much time. I said already I'm in the right mindset. So the next step would be action, right? And very briefly, I'll break down why that type of factory doesn't exist from my perspective. So now I have the mindset, if I want to get started, what do I need to do? I would need to manufacture, right? You're talking about a capital intensive industry where I need to, if I'm producing at scale, I need a factory. So we're talking financing. We're talking revenues to sustain that. Dominica doesn't have a large market, so we need to export fast. So we're talking logistics to get that flour from Dominica to Barbados, right? We're talking staff to run those factories. So as soon as we start thinking practically, we start asking these direct questions. How do I fund it? How do I get it out cheaply? How do I get that factory run efficiently? And immediately it sort of brings us back to the same policy discussion that was discussed, right? I mean, if you look at funding, you'll quickly figure out that there's only debt available. If you were looking in another jurisdiction, there may be, or personally, I think that the way that should be funded is perhaps selling shares. Immediately, you start thinking, well, how do I sell shares? I need a company. You go register the company, it costs you $2,000 US, it costs you whatever to go through some ridiculous process, right? So I think there are several entrepreneurs. I know there's Ben Josimos in this room who runs one of the most successful manufacturing outfits on island. And the truth is the environment makes it difficult. Environments are difficult everywhere. But I think the reason that factory doesn't exist is because even though we have Frampton's flour or whatever, where they currently do produce that exact type of flour in Dominica right now, or at least they used to 1 or 2 years ago, they haven't gotten to the scale where they can serve Barbados. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Hiliare.
Yeah, just to add to the point, I mean, you shared that story, I've heard it before. We recently had the delegation from Trinidad, manufacturers from there, and I was speaking to a guy and his sentiments were the same. He said, oh God, I passing in the country and I see so many fruits, boy, that's money on the ground. So I think there is a disconnect, and that's where the partnership has to come into play, because one, as an entrepreneur, being a young person looking for an opportunity, the question is, where does the opportunity lie? And Ashram made a very important point. Is there data that we have gathered as a country to say that Barbados wants our breadfruits, that Trinidad wants our mangoes, that Antigua wants our plantains? I recently found out that we have been sending plantains to Antigua because there's a high demand for it up there. But how accessible is that information to the potential entrepreneurs and the existing entrepreneurs out there? And then for that group specifically, what mechanisms are in place? Because every sort of business is going to have a unique need. And you know, sometimes that is the challenge in itself when you have limited resources. You try to help as many people as possible, and that ends up sometimes diluting, you know, the availability of funds. So maybe we need to do some research to see where are the areas that can bring the most growth for the country, support them as much as possible, maybe a year, 2 years, and then when they grow to a certain size, they will then start being able to support the economy back, and then attention is focused elsewhere. But definitely, I agree. It's a big opportunity for us, but we maybe need to gather some statistics, some data to help persons rather than leaving them on their own to try to figure out what markets are available for all these mangoes. Let them know where the opportunities are and tell them how they could maybe go about in tapping into those opportunities. So it has to be a collaborative effort. I don't think an entrepreneur can do it on their own, and it's not something that the government can do on its own. We have to meet somewhere where we work together and agree on a pathway forward.
Indeed. Oh, we have, oh, wow. Lovely. We encourage it. So let me just yield to this first table. I see Mr. Walter as well is